It looks like the Steelers might actually be listening to me. Over this last week or so, I've been laying out my Steelers offseason plan and what needs to happen. And one of those pieces is that we move on from Russ. We go with Fields, or maybe sign an Aaron Rodgers, maybe trade for Trevor Lawrence. But of the two, between Russ and Justin Fields, definitely go with Fields. Go with the guy that's 25, going to turn 26, still has all the upside in the world, and played pretty good for you in the 6 games he appeared last season. And why do I say that? Is because there's reports coming out from, again, insider from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Jerry Dulac. He's been on a heater this offseason, absolute heater. I swear he's been putting in more work since the season ended as opposed to when the regular season and actual football games were being played. I swear, there's some report, some rumor, some indication of the Steelers leaning one way or another coming from him like every day since that wild card playoff game against the Ravens. Here's the most recent. He says, no extension likely for Russell Wilson, Dulac believes. Don't think that's going to happen. Pittsburgh Post-Gazette insider Jerry Dulac gave the initial report back in March that there was mutual interest between Wilson and the Steelers for an extension. He's not so sure about that anymore. I think the word that was told to me that I always use is the intention on both sides to do another deal. But I don't think that's going to happen. Dulac said on WDVE morning show with Randy Ballman. I think it was everyone's intention for Russ to be here long term. If you go back to that time period in March last offseason, you had Russ and the organization. I feel like both sides were looking for some stability at the quarterback spot. And once we signed Russ, and Kenny got upset about that, we moved off of Kenny. Russ was officially in the driver's seat. And I think by most people's accounts was expected to start and play good, at least be an upgrade over what we had going at the quarterback position the previous year with Kenny, Mitch, and Mason, which would then earn Russ a multi-year deal of some sort. But how did it actually play out? Like, I think everyone's expectations were, most people's, at least mine, that Russ was going to play good enough, right? Russ was going to steady the ship. We're at least going to go 500, at least. Probably 10-7, which we ended up doing. Making the playoffs, maybe getting a win, maybe going on a little bit of a run, but that's what Russ was going to do. He was at least going to provide some stability at the quarterback position, though, and play better than what we were dealing with last year. Or the year with, Kenny and Mitch and Mason. I guess that was 2023. We thought that was at least going to happen. And given our tougher schedule in 2024 compared to 2023, it might not be perfect. It might not be us going 12-5 or 13 and what would the record be with the 7s? 13-4 with 17-game schedule now. Get confused about that all the time. So, 10-7, 11-6 with Russ, make the playoffs. Maybe we win a playoff game. Maybe go on a Super Bowl run. Given Russ's track record and history of winning a Super Bowl in the past and being a Hall of Fame type of quarterback. Like, that was the upside, at least. That was the ceiling. I think the floor was 9-8, 10-7, making the playoffs, one and done. And unfortunately, we hit that floor this year. So how did it all really play out, though, when you dig into the details? Russ didn't start. We expected him to start. He didn't start. Gets hurt in training camp with that calf injury, pushing the sleds. Bonehead decision by the strength and conditioning coach there. He better not be back. Talking about coaching changes and who should be back, whether it's the DC, Tomlin. That guy, he needs to be out of town. He needs to not step foot ever again on St. Vincent's turf for training camp. Get him out of here. Anyway, he gets hurt in training camp with the calf and misses the first 6 games of the season, so he doesn't even start the season out for the Steelers. Justin Fields plays well in Russ's absence, goes 4-2, and makes it a legit conversation mid-season about who should be the starter going forward. Ultimately, Tomlin makes the decision to go with Russ. And to start the beginning of the Russ era here, Russ was playing better than Fields. Helped the passing game a lot. We go 6-1, and Russ was looking like Seattle Russ. I was talking about him being a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league right now because he was playing like that. Let's be legit. I wasn't the only one saying that. National media was saying it. First Take was saying it. A lot of people were saying Russ has proven everyone wrong here. But then the season finished 0-5. Russ came back down to earth. Looked like Broncos Russ. Not like terrible. He wasn't god awful, but not anything you're writing home about, not anything you're excited about. So we had the expectations for Russ of him playing good, the intentions for Russ of him playing good, and ultimately earning that multi-year deal, being the Steelers franchise quarterback for the next 2 or 3 years. But with how you lay out the 2024 season actually going, does that sound like something you want to commit to for another year or multiple years, given Russ's age? Didn't even play the first 6 games of the season. Fields played good. Like, that's the other thing. Going back to intentions and expectations, Fields was a wild card. We didn't know Fields could play winning football on a consistent basis, given what we saw in Chicago. We got to see the highlights. We got to see the talent. But what was his record in Chicago? It was like 8-20 something or 9-20. It wasn't a good record. Fumbled the ball a lot, turned the ball over a lot, just didn't play winning football. His QB rating, all of his stats went down in the fourth quarter. But we saw in the 6 games here, Russ opened the door with that calf injury. The 6 games for Justin Fields, played winning football, 4-2, didn't turn the ball over, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. And then we see Russ get the nod from Tomlin, played good, looked like vintage Russ. The problem is the season didn't end at that point when Russ was 6-1, and I think the team was at 10-3. And I was saying, if Russ earned a multi-year contract. We still had 4 more games and ultimately 5 more games with that extra playoff game against the Ravens. And we went 0-5, and Russ didn't play good. He had turnovers. Offense didn't put up more than 17 points in any of those games. Just because your initial intention is to make something happen long-term or to make it last doesn't mean you need to commit on that after gathering all the information you need. Look at real life. Breakups happen. Divorces happen. In business, you have companies dissolve. You have owners pivot, make different decisions. Like, how is this any different? It's sad, though, because I appreciated Russ's time here. I appreciate what he brings to the table and who he is, how he's all about the team. He works his ass off, but it is sad that it's one of those scenarios where I think Russ needs us more than we need him. I think we're going to be just fine without Russ. We got a Justin Fields option. We got other options. We can make things happen. Whereas, I don't know who's really going to be giving Russ another opportunity to be a bona fide starter like that. I think it's only us. Because Mike Tomlin gave Russ the opportunity this offseason. And I think some teams like the Giants, maybe the Raiders, would have given Russ the chance because there was some interest from other teams going back to that 2023 offseason whenever after the Broncos cut him. But I don't know if the Giants or the Raiders would have really given Russ the same opportunity that we did here. Because I think Tomlin has a strong affinity for Russ. Going back to intention, Tomlin apparently in his pitch to get Russ here said to Russ that he wants to cement Russell's legacy. He wants to have Russ be an immortal, finish off his career here in Pittsburgh and cement his immortal football status. Because we know what it was already in Seattle, but it's like, all right, let's get that second win here, which means like let's get back to winning Super Bowls, which is something that you used to do, Russ, back in Seattle, back in your heyday, back in your prime, and what Tomlin used to do too about a decade ago. So it's like kind of telling them, hey, we're in this for the long haul. We're gonna try to make this happen. And with how it shaked out, like once we moved off of Kenny, Russ was in the driver's seat. Russ was starting. I just don't know. And even with him missing those first 6 games and Fields playing good, Tomlin went back to Russ. I don't think any other team is willing to do that. I don't. I think it's a Tomlin thing, his strong affinity for Russ, how he views Russ, knowing that Russ has done certain things in the league. And, Tomlin appreciates football history. I don't know if anyone else would have given Russ that type of chance. And now we're another year removed where we just got to see how the season ended. I mean, is any other team's opinion out there changing on Russ? Like think of what the status was for Russ whenever the Broncos cut him and how the NFL viewed him and the media viewed him. Like kind of washed over the hill. Like maybe we'll give you this last ditch chance to revive your career. But I don't think anyone was like thinking that highly of him or that he would legitimately be able to be a team's franchise quarterback for the next 5-6 years going into his 40s. We kind of did. The Steelers, again, I think we're like the outlier team. And Tomlin's a part of that. I think Tomlin does believe in Russ to a degree that a lot of other people and a lot of other teams don't. But like, bro, what did Russ do whenever you look at his whole body of work and how this season ended? What did he do that is making other teams really change their mind about where he's at in his career right now? That's a good question. Where is he at? Yeah, I guess he could start games for you. But then it's just like, what's your future? He could win games for you. He could give you a good floor. But that's the problem we're running into here in Pittsburgh and the conversations we've been having over the last week. It's like, that's not the goal, just winning games and being relevant. Not for us, at least. Maybe there is another team. Maybe there's another team out there that could sign Russ, give him a chance to be a starter, draft one of these dudes, maybe Cam Warren, Shedeur Sanders in the first round and have him sit under Russ for a year, maybe half the season. But it's like, what does that tell you about Russ, though, and how teams view him? They're just viewing him as a bridge guy. So, again, I think Russ needs us a little bit more than we need him. So, it's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate, given how he looked to start his Steeler tenure. Going 6-1, and we're sitting at 10-3. I thought we were legit Super Bowl contenders, all that. But, man, it didn't end good. Reverted back to earth, reverted back to Broncos Russ. And that's not something you want to be mortgaging your future for. That's not something you want to, I don't even want to say, I was going to say, that's not something you want to invest time into. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Because some may say like, oh, it's more of a risk to go with Justin Fields than bring back a Russ. I don't know though, bro. I think it's more of a risk in not seeing what Justin Fields' potential can be versus running it back with Russ, knowing, all right, it's gonna look like this, but ultimately we're never gonna hit our goal. Because that's my opinion. I think Russ has hit that limited point in his career where he's not gonna get all the way back to elite. Maybe he'll give you a game or two. Maybe he'll give you a stretch like he did for us this season. But with how it ended, nah. So if Dulac's right in saying that the Russ extension isn't going to happen, I agree with it. I'm all for it. I think that's how the Steelers need to operate. You need to go with Fields and see if he can bring you elite quarterback play. He fits what Arthur Smith is trying to do better than Russ. And also, I think has the talent to compete with the top quarterbacks, where on the opposing ends of the spectrum, you have Russ and Arthur Smith colliding on offensive philosophy and butting heads. And then in terms of talent and where the level of play is, I don't think Russ has it like that anymore. Whereas Fields, I don't think we've even scratched the surface on what he can be. But we've already seen him raise his floor, and in 6 games we went 4-2 with him. And he had 10 touchdowns and 1 pick. So, like, again, it's not even that much of a risk to go with Fields. If we know we can at least get that, most likely, again, I guess you got to do it over the course of the season. I get it. But, man, you extrapolate those 6 games from Fields over, I guess, the course of the season. You times that by 3, it's almost 30 touchdowns and single-digit picks. Come on, bro. Come on. And we're saying we still can get more out of Fields. That's what I'm interested in. And it looks like, because there's multiple reports here. Not only do we have the main report that I just went over that says, yeah, Steelers aren't really looking to give Russ that extension. You got another one from the same guy saying that out of all the options that are on the outside, Steelers are leaning towards Fields too. So not only with the in-house debate on who should be back between the quarterbacks, Russ and Fields, Fields has the edge. But when comparing Fields to the guys that are available across the league, it looks like Fields has the upper hand too. Let's read this real quick. He says, granted, Fields does not have the credentials to be lumped into the same category. Jane Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, the 4 quarterbacks left standing. But he has the same skill set, which is right. True. I think he has a better skill set than Jalen Hurts. I think he has a better skill set, better arm, I think faster, more dynamic runner, was better in college. So that's what I wonder. If we actually can tailor a system towards him, and I think Arthur Smith can do that, why can't Justin Fields be Jalen Hurts for us? Why can't he be? Why can't we be doing the tush push with Justin Fields on 3rd and short and 4th and short? And Justin Fields ends a season with like 25 passing touchdowns and maybe like 10 to 15 rushing touchdowns. Why can't that be the case? Given what we've already seen from him in his first 6 games here in a Steeler uniform. I don't even think he's close to his ceiling. Anyway, he says the Steelers like the way he developed from his days in Chicago. As I just said, in the 6 games he started at the beginning of the season. What's more, any of the top quarterbacks who are expected to be available in free agency, Rodgers, Darnold, Cousins, Jones, do not appear to interest the Steelers more than what they have with Fields. He was not the same quarterback who won only 10 games in 3 seasons with the Bears. Fields completed nearly 66% of his passes, threw just 1 interception on 161 attempts, accounted for 10 touchdowns, including 5 rushing. Don't forget he ran for 1,143 yards and 8 touchdowns with the Bears in 2022, which was, I still believe it stands as the most rushing yards for a quarterback in a single season. So there you have that. It's looking like Fields, man. It's definitely looking like Fields. Based off multiple reports, if you're going to be putting 2 and 2 together here. And I think that's the route to go. I think it is. I think the Steelers still should be open to signing an Aaron Rodgers if he is available. But outside of that, and maybe trading for a Trevor Lawrence or a Kyler Murray, there's really no other quarterback situation that I'd be excited about here in Pittsburgh. And I think the Trevor Lawrence or Kyler Murray trade, that's only if you don't bring back Russ or Fields and maybe you miss out on a Rodgers. That's like my plan C or my plan D. Signing Rodgers or just re-signing Fields, you don't have to give up assets. You're not going to be giving out a massive contract and taking a massive hit on your salary. So you like your team salary. So that's why I got those 2 options, whether it's Fields or Rodgers, as my top 2. And it looks like that's how the Steelers are operating, at least from the Field side. Obviously, we just saw the report by Dulac saying they're not really that interested in Rodgers. I think they should be. I think they should have some interest or at least be open to it. But even if they don't, just go with Fields then. Just go with Fields. All right, we got some people in the chat, man. What are you guys thinking? We got Bo Flash Steel saying Russ is a shadow of his former self. No need, not worth it. Move on from Russ. He's a good backup now in his career. Yeah, I don't. So that's why I asked the question earlier, like, what is Russ right now? Like, I do think he could still start for your team, win you some games, again, keep you relevant. You saw in his last year in Denver, like, they were a 500 type of team with Russ. But teams don't want to be like, I don't think our current situation here in Pittsburgh is this unique thing where we're talking about, okay, it's cool, we're winning games, but we want to win Super Bowls. I think that's how most teams operate, man. I don't think teams are just cool with status quo of being 500, being somewhat relevant. Now, there's different stages to that. Maybe it's cool for a couple seasons because you need some stability, especially if there was chaos with your organization for the last like 10 years. Almost like the Chargers, what you're seeing right now with the Chargers. They just went basically same record as us, same thing as us, wild card loss. Like, if that continues to happen for the next like 2-3 years, there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some shakeup. But given where they've been at over the last 5 years, a little bit more chaotic as a franchise, they're looking for some stability. So they're kind of cool with that right now, but they're not going to be cool with that long term. And that's just how I think teams are too. Like, I don't think teams are just signing up for, man, we're gonna be 9-8 next year, and we're gonna be cool with that. No, they're thinking it's like we either got our future and we can live with going with a losing record because we got our future at quarterback and we're building, we're developing, we're making mistakes, and that's fine because we're looking 3-4 years down the road. That's our ticket to get the Super Bowl. Or you're legitimately in contention right now. I don't think a lot of teams want to operate in that in between, that purgatory. You want to feel like you actually have a chance. Whereas with Russ, I don't think you have a chance. So, yeah, maybe a team. And that's why I brought up the situation of maybe he could be a bridge quarterback for someone. Steelers, we don't want a bridge quarterback. We're tired of that stuff. We're tired. We need to find an elite quarterback. We're tired of the bridge quarterback stuff. We don't want that anymore. Maybe a team like the Raiders, though. Maybe a team like the Giants could use him as a guy to mentor one of these rookie quarterbacks they're going to be bringing in. Maybe. But that's not for us. That's not our style anymore. That's not how we want to be vibing going into the 2025 season. We need an answer on the quarterback. We just need an answer. And starting Justin Fields should give us that answer. Both Last Steel says, problem is the OC not opening up the game enough for Fields. Yes and no. I'm with you. I don't think it was the wrong decision to hold the offense back a little bit with Fields and try to keep it more conservative, just given what he did in Chicago. But yeah, if we're trying to find out whether or not Fields is the answer, if he can be an elite quarterback, we are going to have to open up the offense more. We definitely are. But I think, to your point, that's why maybe Fields' numbers weren't as gaudy. He could have had better production. Could have had higher yards. Could have had more touchdowns if we opened it up more. But I also think we were just playing a good complementary style. Fields is a little bit more of a running quarterback, so we were able to control time of possession more, keep our defense off the field, keep them rested. So that's a little bit part of it too. But I'm with you. I do think with Fields, if we're going to rock with him in 2025, let's open up the offense. Let's be more aggressive. Let's see if Fields can cook with a system tailored towards him. And I think we did that. We tailored it towards him, but we kept the handcuffs on a little bit. We kept it in check, kept it a little bit more conservative. But I don't think that was the worst approach, given that it was still the start of the season. You wanted to have a winning record before you had to make a decision on sticking with Fields or moving over to Russ, who was the guy that you named starter before the season. So, like, that's the other thing too. Fields was technically the backup. And usually with backup quarterbacks, you're not like unloading the clip. You're not putting out the most exotic offense and just airing it out and going crazy. We had to do that though at the end of that Colts game, and you saw what Fields was capable of. Bring us back down one score. We did have a chance at the very end. I think he had like 3 touchdowns in a row on 3 series. Taste of chaos is I don't think there's an answer this year, but Fields is the best option available. Next year, we need to draft a wideout. Then the following year, we go get our quarterback of the future, even if it takes trading up. Yep. That's it. It might be Fields, though. We might not even have to get a quarterback of the future in the 2026 draft or in free agency. We might find out that it's Fields, and then we give him a long-term deal. I'm with you. Give Fields every chance for success. Draft a receiver, sign a T. Higgins. If you want to trade a Pickens, do that. But make sure he at least got 2 solid outside receivers, unlike this season. Bowfly Steel says, here's my take. Do you think Fields wants to come back? Yes, he did. And actually, Lord Dre just answered that in the comments. He said he did. Yeah, he's like, I want to come back. I want continuity. I'm tired of learning new playbooks. I did that all in Chicago. And then even with me coming over here to the Steelers last offseason, still had to learn another playbook. I think he's comfortable here. I think he likes Arthur Smith. So he wants to come back. The question is, do we give him the opportunity to be the starter? Like if we re-sign Russ, I think that could put a wrinkle in Fields' decision. But if we say to Fields, you're getting every opportunity to start, I don't think there's a better spot for him in 2025. No chance. All right, I'll read a few more. And then I was going to talk some Broderick Jones, but we basically just went through a full show. Maybe I'll save Broderick Jones for tomorrow. Yeah, we'll talk Broderick tomorrow. If you guys have anything you want discussed for tomorrow's show, drop it in the comments. Bowfly Steel says, trade Pickens and a 3rd rounder to the Jets for Garrett Wilson. That would be a bad trade. What about just a Pickens for Garrett Wilson straight up? Talent for talent, they're both there. They're pretty much in the same exact spot, too. They're going to be looking for an extension this offseason. Garrett Wilson has the consecutive 1,000-yard years. Pickens, I was going to say Pickens' second year might be the best season between the two because I think he had like 1,100 yards, 1,150 yards. Not too many touchdowns, though. Very similar, though. They're in very similar spots. I still think Pickens has the higher upside than Garrett Wilson. But Garrett Wilson hasn't really shown any diva tendencies or being a headache in his respective team's locker room. Lord Dre 10 says, what do you think about the defense? Needs to get fixed, bro. Because we could talk about the offense. We could talk about the quarterback and getting up with the modern era. But we could do all that. This defense needs fixed too. The defense has been getting cooked. We've been giving up 30-plus points in all these playoff losses over the last however many years. Plus, how we finished the season. Giving up pretty much 30-plus points in all those games outside of the Bengals one, I think. Yeah, I think Bengals game. I actually thought the defense may have taken a step in the right direction heading into the playoffs with that Bengals game, but clearly I was wrong. Yeah, 4 out of the 5 last games here, 4 of the 5 games we finished with, defense gave up 30-plus points. And we have all that talent on defense. We've allocated all those resources on defense. It's like inexcusable. Let's see. I want to read 1 or 2 more. Derek Shepard says, why would we commit to Russ with the reports coming out about him and Russ weren't on the same page? Whenever you say him, you mean Arthur Smith and how he preferred Fields. Roll with Fields. Yep, agreed. Definitely agree. Brian Bowers, 87, says, we need a better cover safety. You think? Are you talking about Deshaun Elliott? Or are you talking about Minka? I don't know if safety is our problem. I wouldn't mind restructuring Minka's contract, get his cap hit down, but I'm good with bringing back Minka and Deshaun Elliott for safety. I don't got a problem with them. I think our linebacker production could use an uptick, and definitely D-line as well. I think we could use another corner. Yeah, we need another corner across from JPJ or just another corner in general. I mean, Dante Jackson was good though. He was just hurt. He was banged up, little too inconsistent down the stretch of being available, being a guy that we can rely on. I think we need another corner though, definitely. Like we need a nice 3-man rotation, then have a solid slot guy. Maybe Beanie Bishop can be that solid slot guy for us. But I think we need like a solid 3-man, like outside rotation of 3 guys that we really can rely on. And I mean, we don't even have that with our top guy in JPJ. He doesn't even feel like he's a guy that we could rely on to that degree. I didn't think he had a terrible season. I don't think he had a bad season, but he didn't necessarily live up to what we expected. And then Dante Jackson, he's only going to be getting older. Corey Trice, don't think we can rely on that. Cam Sutton, he's going to be a free agent, but we saw whenever he got into the Steelers system midway through the season, our secondary took a little bit of a downturn when he was out there. So it's tough. Yeah, we definitely need help at cornerback. I don't know about safety. I think we're all right at safety. I can definitely live with Minkah and Deshaun Elliott for another year back there. I think we need to build up some other pieces. TJ needs to play better. We need to get better pass rush. We need to get better pressure. So like that's a part of it too. Lord Dre 10 says, I heard reports about getting Hufanga. No way. That would be sick. The connection to Troy. Bowfly Steel says, I also think the DC should be blitzing more. I agree. When we're not getting the pressure with the 4-man fronts, like I need to change the approach a little bit. And we'll see if that happens. Because, I mean, it'll throw off the offense too. I don't even think it has to be this thing where you got to put your ego aside and like, okay, maybe our guys aren't living up to their contracts because we expect them. We expect TJ and Cam Highsmith, those type of dudes. If we only send the 4 of them, that they'll be able to get pressure on their own. We don't need to create a blitz to do that or make a blitz to create that. Sometimes just throwing in blitz mixes with the offense, messes with that, like just giving different looks and doing that type of stuff. If you're always expecting a team to rush 4, you could prepare for that a lot better than, all right, we're going to blitz this random first down, second down. We're not going to do that. Maybe third, a simulated pressure. It does feel like, all right, we just have this steady approach on how we're going to try to get pressure on the quarterback and how we're going to try to address the opponent's passing game. So I'm with you on that. I am. But all right, I'm out of here, guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Like I said, we'll talk Broderick Jones because it looks like we're going to be rolling with him over at left tackle as our starter. So we're going to have to throw some prayers up that works out for us next season. It's either he lives up to his potential or he proves to be a bust like Devin Bush or Nardi Burns. Like I think that's where we're at with Broderick at this point. So we'll talk about that. I don't know what else. Anything else to talk about? I'll find something. I don't know if you guys have anything on the top of your mind though that could be interesting as like our second topic, as our backup topic. But we're definitely talking Broderick Jones tomorrow. So hope you guys enjoyed. Stay chilling. Back 6 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time again. Back again after that on Thursday. So I got 2 more shows this week. Wednesday, 6 p.m. Thursday, 6 p.m. Stay tuned and stay chilling. Here we go, Steelers. Peace.